Okay, let's learn about colons. Now, colons are one of these challenging pieces of punctuation that most students don't really know how to use because you guys probably aren't using these a ton in your own essays or seeing them a bunch and stuff you're reading. So what do colons do? Well, colons do a variety of things. The one you're most likely familiar with is that a colon can introduce a list of multiple items. And that is our first thing colons can do, but they can actually do a variety of others. A colon can also introduce a list of just one item. It can provide an example, an explanation, a clarification, or a definition. So let's look at some examples. We're going to start with our classic list of multiple items. So our first example right here reads, I went to the grocery store to pick up some items for dinner, chicken, cheese, and onions. Here this works because the colon is just introducing what the items were we got for dinner. In the second example, we can also have a colon introduce just like a list of one thing. I went to the market to get lunch, a turkey sandwich. Here, it's just a list of one thing you got for lunch. So again, colons doesn't have to be a list of multiple items, it can just be one item. The third one here is one of the ones the ACT loves, which is providing like an explanation or clarification. So I could say he got what he deserved, a 1-week suspension without pay. Here, the 1-week suspension without pay is basically explaining or clarifying what he deserved. Now, the last one we can see is definitely a challenge one, but it does come up at times in the test, which is linking two independent clauses with a colon. So here I can say chocolate milk is a great recovery drink after a hard workout. It has the carbohydrates and proteins that muscles need to recover. Now, both of those are independent clauses, but here we can use a colon because the second sentence is directly explaining the claim in the first sentence. It's talking about why chocolate milk is such a great recovery drink after a hard workout. So here we have two independent clauses. So I could have put a period here and a capital IT, I could have put a semicolon, I could have put a comma and a fan voice, but sometimes the only option on the test is to use a colon, and again, if the second sentence is an explanation or clarification, we are completely allowed to do that. Alright, so to use colons correctly, we're going to have to know three basic rules. And we'll start with number one right here, which says the part of the sentence before the colon must be an independent clause. So whenever you see a colon on the ACT, read before the colon and make sure it is a complete sentence. If it is not a complete sentence, it is going to be wrong. So all four examples we just read up above, the whole first part is a complete sentence. So if I look before the colon, right here, everything to the left, it says, I went to the grocery store to pick up some items for dinner. That is a nice independent clause. If we look at the second one, again, everything before it, I went to the market to get lunch. That's a complete sentence. Same with the third one. I can just say, he got what he deserved. That's a complete sentence. Same with the final one. I can say, chocolate milk is a great recovery drink after a hard workout. So, if it's not a complete sentence, it's wrong, cross it off. As an example right here, in our first incorrect one, if I just say the slide showing the most popular car colors in 2018, that's not a complete sentence, which means right away we know this colon is incorrect. But if that was a complete sentence, it could work. So correct right here, I could say the slide shows the most popular car colors in 2018. That's a complete sentence. And then a colon, then white, gray, and black. That works because now it's just listing what the most popular car colors were. So as another example here, I cannot do this. I cannot say the hairstylist excelled in cuts, coloring, and highlights. The first part of that sentence, the hairstylist excelled in, is not a complete sentence. So sometimes with a list, you just have a list in a sentence. As we can see correctly here, I can just say the hairstylist excelled in cuts, coloring, and highlights. Sometimes, again, you just run straight through with no colon. So that is our first rule with colons. Now, our second rule is going to be everything after the colon must be just the items in the list, the example, the explanation, the clarification, the definition, and that's it. The sentence cannot continue on to other topics. So incorrectly, right here, I cannot do this. I cannot say, Will brought his lunch to the beach, a roast beef sandwich, and brought his friend Joey a turkey club. You can't say, here's his list of things he brought to the beach, a roast beef sandwich, and then go elsewhere. That's no good. But we could make that just two sentences. So correctly, right here, I could say, Will brought his Will brought his lunch to the beach, a roast beef sandwich. He brought his friend Joey a turkey club. So again, we can make those two complete sentences. All right, so those are our first two rules, which brings us to our third rule. Colons are never ever allowed to be used with, including, such as, or for example. So anytime you see a colon with those, whether the colon is before or after those words, it's always going to be wrong because it's going to break one of our two rules. So we'll start with our first incorrect one right here. If I say, I went to the grocery store to pick up some items for dinner, including colon, chicken, cheese, and onions. Well, now, if I look to the left of my colon, it's not a complete sentence. I can't just say, I went to the grocery store to pick up some items for dinner, including, and stop talking. So that is going to be wrong. If I switch it and put it after instead, like our second example, if I say I went to the grocery store to pick up some items for dinner, colon, including chicken, cheese, and onions, well, now this is breaking our second rule. This is in the way of our list. So again, not colons before or after with including. Same with for example, incorrectly right here. I cannot say certain plants grow well in winter, colon, for example, garlic, leeks, radishes, and potatoes. We don't want to have that for example before our list. So that's no good. Such as you can also never see with a colon. So incorrectly here, I cannot say my favorite dishes to cook, colon, such as chicken parmesan, cheesesteaks, and mac and cheese, comma, always included melted cheese, because again, the first part of our sentence, if we look to the left of our colon, my favorite dishes to cook is not a complete independent clause. Same with the last one here. If I finish this up, the study relied on techniques such as, well, again, that is not a complete sentence. So, none of those ones work. Now, how should we use these correctly? So if we go on to page number 31 here, at the top of the page, if we're going to have a list that is introduced by including or for example, we're going to use a comma before those words. This works because the list is basically unnecessary information. We can cross out the list. For such as, we could have commas or no commas depending on the context. Usually it's pretty easy to tell when you see these on the test. So we'll start with the first one here. So I can say, now correctly, I went to the grocery store to pick up some items from dinner, comma, including chicken, cheese, and onions. And this comma is just one of our extra information commas, separating this whole phrase as information we can cross out. Same with our second one here. I can say certain plants grow very well in winter, comma, for example, garlic, leeks, radishes, and potatoes. Again, it is just now separating the list as unnecessary information. I could have such as, in our third example, as unnecessary, my favorite dishes to cook, comma, such as chicken parmesan, cheesesteaks, and mac and cheese, comma, always included or always include cheese. Again, this information in the middle is now unnecessary. Or I could have such as where it is necessary. The study relied on techniques such as direct observation and surveying, where we keep this information. But again, as I've said a bunch of times, never ever with a colon. Now, final thing here, for more challenge questions, we saw one of these already, but remember, a colon can join two independent clauses as long as the second clause, the second sentence, explains, clarifies, gives an example of the first one. So it's just two more quick examples here. The first one reads, Buddy got what he worked for. He really deserved that promotion. Here, we have two complete sentences, but a colon works because he really deserved that promotion is explaining or clarifying what Buddy worked for. Same with our second one here. My father gave me one rule to live by, colon, honesty is always the best policy. Again, two sentences, but the second sentence is just clarifying or explaining or listing our father's rule to live by. So again, these would be correct with a semicolon, with a period, with a comma and a fanboys, but sometimes in the test, the only option is the colon. So, you guys can go ahead and work through questions 1 through 9. In the next video, I will go over the answers.